the NJC is not rising up to the challenge. When the late Justice Dahiru Mustafa was CJN, he resolved all this. He set up a panel. We came up with a blueprint to remove all these, challenges. But unfortunately, the late CJN had only 3 months, 6 months. When he retired, the incoming CJN, Aluma Mokhtar, didn't do anything about it. So the judiciary is still challenged with the same problems. Politicians are very desperate, as you know, and they are desperate people to look for desperate lawyers who will find desperate judges. So I would ask a question. I'm Mr. Justice Olisa Bakaba, sitting at the Oka High Court, and I see an application exported before me in respect of election matters in Kogi State. Wouldn't I ask the council, why are you here? That answers it. So the judge in Jigawa or wherever else, wouldn't they ask the question, why are you before me? The territorial jurisdiction of the court doesn't extend to you coming from Oka to Jigawa. So they should strike it out. If they don't do so, I will not prejudge, since the CJN and the NJC are now, engaging with the matter. I think they're going to set up relevant investigative panels. So I do not want to prejudge. But all I'll say is that it disgraces the judiciary with all the conflicts we've seen. And I think the CJN took the right step to summon the relevant CJs for the explanation that is now on course. But it doesn't make us lawyers and the judges look good in the eyes of the public. So I look forward to the sternest possible punishment for all those involved, including dismissal from office, so that we can send a strong message. Otherwise, it's going to continue.
Does that mean that there are no instances in which lawyers can forum shop? Because I've heard some senior lawyers say that technically there might not be anything wrong with it.
No, there's something wrong. What do you mean? There's something wrong. There's something wrong. How can you go? Does it make sense that a land case, say in my hometown Onitsha, I take it to Kasina? Does make sense? Conceptually, the argument might be that there are some instances that you can forum shop. But the Supreme Court has made clear, I don't recall the case now, that cases must be assigned to their home jurisdiction. I think this case was filed in Kaduna. I don't quite remember the facts, but it ought to have been filed in Asaba. And the Supreme Court made a pronouncement on this. And I think that case should guide everybody. So if lawyers argue that there's nothing really wrong, then my point would be that there is something wrong if a case is not in its home jurisdiction. I remember Justice Achibong, my classmate, he was very strong on this. If you brought a case to him when he was sitting in Jos as a federal high court judge, he would say, no, why are you here? Lagos. And he would make the relevant transfer orders. So I think on the whole, whether or not, there is jurisdiction to do this forum shopping, it just doesn't make sense for a judge sitting outside of the home jurisdiction to consider the case, and not only consider it, grant ex parte orders. If a judge, if I have a case outside of my jurisdiction and I'm being asked to grant an ex parte order, it's a warning. I know something is wrong. So I hope these judges will be severely punished.
So how do you react to the action taken by the CJN summoning the heads of courts? Because some people are saying that it really doesn't have such powers, that it should have left it for the NJC to handle.
I disagree. The CJN is seen as the head of the Nigerian judiciary. Structurally, the CJN has no control over any judge, actually. You can't summon a judge. But we all know that CJN is the head of the judiciary. And if we request a judge to come see him, or the CJ of a state to come see him, I don't think there's anything wrong. And don't forget that when he chatted with them, he referred it to the NJC. So I don't know what's wrong with that.
Same thing for the NBA. They say that they're going to collaborate with the NJC, and people are saying, I mean, you know the lawyers involved. Why not hold them before the LPDC for discipline instead of saying that you're going to collaborate? It looks like we're shying away from the
You
issues.
know, but working together is also good. There are two. No, no, but there are two arms of a problem: the lawyers and the judges. So if the NJC and the NBA have a common position to get rid of a problem affecting the image of the legal and judicial systems, I don't see what's wrong with it. So I would imagine that the president of Nigerian Bar meeting with the CJN to have a collaboration. Don't forget that we need to ask, what do we do about these lawyers who deliberately take these cases and go forum shopping? So there's a twin-headed problem here. So I don't think there's anything wrong in the CJN and the NBA collaborating. But the NBA has its own track of discipline. Yeah, so I would expect the NBA to unleash its own, track of discipline against those lawyers involved.
As a former president of the bar, can you tell us why does it appear like the bar is especially reluctant to punish senior lawyers? Because we've been down this road before where we've seen this kind of judgments over conflicting orders. But why does it appear like the bar is always seemingly reluctant to punish its members?
That question you should put to the NBA president. Well, I'm no longer the NBA president. When I was there, I did my own part. But right now, ask the question to Mr. Olu Akpata. But I agree with the implication in your question. Why does this keep recurring? So we need to make examples of lawyers who abuse the process. We need to make examples of judges who abuse the process, which is why I endorse the CJN NBA collaboration. So let's say once and for all, let's nip this cancer in the bud. It's far too long now. It occurs all the time. Whenever the political cycle comes, every 4 years, there's election, everyone goes berserk. The judges go berserk, the lawyers go berserk. So they have to be punished. I agree entirely.
For the politicians who start us off on this route, is there anything that we can do?
The politicians can face the relevant law enforcement agencies because they're corrupting judges. They're corrupting judges. So if it is obvious that a particular politician has done something wrong that breaks the law, then we would expect the criminal enforcement process to kick in. But the problem is that the corrupt electoral system is overwhelming institutions: the legal profession, the judicial profession, the criminal justice profession. So we need to really say to ourselves, we need to take strong measures to check this rubbish so that 2023 will be free and devoid of corrupt practices. Easier said than done, but we need people who can do it. And I hope that Ulubata for the bar and the CJN for the judiciary can rise to the occasion. This practice of the conflicting decisions of the various courts has enough sanctions within the system to deal with it. So the only thing that is missing is we're not seeing heads on the block. We need to have blood drawn, put the head on the block and chop it. So the next person will say, this is getting serious. But if it's just to sanction the person, retire him, he goes home. But if, suppose a judge is found liable, is dismissed, and is prosecuted and jailed, that sends a strong signal.
Away from issues of conflicting court orders, let's talk about the judgment on VAT and the implications and the calls for restructuring that it has even triggered. How are you reading that one?
It's good now. Absolutely. I've always said it is not a press conference event. It is something that is doable. Femi Falana produced a brilliant paper where he showed that restructuring is possible within the parameters of the present constitution. So this is an example. You don't have to wait for a conference for you, the governor, to exercise powers vested in you in the constitution to create electrical power in your state. I hope you know it's in the constitution that governors can create electricity in their states. So why all this noise? It's on the concurrent list. So why are you waiting? What are you waiting for? You can do practically a lot of things. So when some of the lawyers looked at it, so by the way, it started with lawyers, with FIRS sending us all kinds of notices. Pay this tax, pay this tax. So a particular lawyer in Port Harcourt said, no, I'm going to court. And he went to court, and the court said, you are right, that there are all kinds of taxes, but who collects depends on where it falls in the Constitution. And that being a consumption tax is not in the exclusive list. So FIRS that has been collecting all this tax is unconstitutional. So it's a simple argument. So Ukala, SAN, who took the matter first to court, won. And of course that energized Wike. And Wike said, this is a good point to take to court. So Wike was simply exercising the powers vested in him by the Constitution by asking the judge, am I authorized to collect that, or is it the federal government? And the court said it's you. So it's a no-brainer. I don't see why it's an issue actually, because it's in the law. But the governors have not had. You see, the governors have become very timid. Anytime they have a problem, you see them climbing the staircase in Aso Rock. Rather than doing the thing in their state, walking, looking at the Constitution to see what kind of powers that has been bestowed on them, including the one I talked about, electricity, that they can do a lot more than they are doing. So all that has happened is an exercise of constitutional power by Rivers State, now Adamawa, now Lagos, and I'm sure it's going to go to the Supreme Court, which is why FIRS, realizing the strength of the case, has run to the National Assembly. So they know. So they know. So it's all good to strengthen our democracy, because we have a centrifugal federal process where it's a pyramid. Everything is here. There's nothing here. So if Wike says that he pays 15 billion to FIRS, to FIRS, but if you change it around, he gets it for his state. Why should he pay tax to Abuja when he needs it for his state? So it makes sense. The first thing is to say, was the judge right? I think he was right. But it's going to go through the process of appeal. So it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and then there will be clarity. The political issue presented by FIRS to the National Assembly will be debated. And remember that it will require the concurrence of 2/3 of the states. So that will be where the argument will be interesting, to see what states will concur and which ones will not. So like Wiki rightly pointed out, if you really create a mechanism for internally generated revenue, you will find that it's in your interest to collect your own revenue yourself. Why should the federal government collect and give it to you? So I hope that the attempt to amend the Constitution fails, so that the states are the ones responsible for that. Because the states have no money. It's obvious. The states are actually technically insolvent, most of them. So why shouldn't they want to have the opportunity to collect tax?